See what you think about this, dudes. I've been listening to a few videos that have been stating that religion is becoming more popular. But this was coming from a religious perspective, and they're kind of inferring that Christianity is becoming more popular for a very good reason, because it's true and this sort of thing. But truth be known, alternate ways of thinking is becoming more popular. Spirituality is growing, as well as all different sorts of religions and alternative ideologies. Since the advent of COVID, people were given the opportunity to think in ways in which they weren't used to. And the worst thing in the world that a government could ever do is to upset the apple cart, because what it does is, things are always a double-edged sword. They thought that they could impose that upon us to heighten their measures of control and subservience. But they never appear to be that bright, because there was always the offset, the byproduct of something like that. And what they did was, by curtailing our actions, closing us down and affecting the way in which we thought, they give us opportunity to search for other things. And when we become destabilized from our regular paradigm of thought, we start looking for something else. That's a great deficit to the powers that be, because it's given an opportunity for defection. Now, one thing is certain: many people woke up in these last few years, and people who are self-proclaimed, they're very much in the matrix, they're very much involved in their particular thing. Scientists, they speak about this. Even scientists who are so sure about their vocation and all the stuff that they've been listening to and involved in their particular fraternity, where science is king and don't listen to anything else. Well, in recent years, science has been shown to be very wanting. And so, people now have fallen out of love with science. Many people. And they are looking what's available alternatively, and they are discovering a whole lot more. And so, generally speaking, all different sorts of paradigms of thought have been given a revitalization, let's just say. Because when anybody is momentarily destabilized from their train of thought, well, it just stands to reason that once you're out of balance, then you're going to go tipping in the other direction before you end up back at in the level, in the mean. And so I'm just wondering how many of you guys have really started to wake up, or did wake up, during recent times, when you were forced into thinking about the world, because things just didn't seem right. And initially, you were captivated, but then there were these annoying little murmurs coming from alternate media and the conspiracy theorists and these, that and the other. But now you see what's happened is there's been many very renowned and respected scientists who have actually I wouldn't say defected from their main train of thought, but they are most certainly open-minded, and they are most certainly looking into alternatives. And they realise now that the whole conspiracy theory isn't in actual fact a theory. On most occasions, it's premised on fact. And so now they're in the best position of all to produce these facts, and they are doing because they're scientists, you see. And so they looked at the so-called facts being delivered by, the gurus of the time, Fauci and people like that, the WHO, sorry, the World Health Organization, and they very quickly discerned that that wasn't true. It just simply wasn't true. And so they've looked into things much more deeply now, and they are still coming up with the truth. They are still finding out now what the conspiracy theorists were saying from the very get-go. That nobody should have taken their word for it. We should all do our own research. And so still on this platform, I can barely say anything in relation to that before a few of the key words get linked and then this video gets flagged. So you know what I mean, you all know what I mean. But now, more people are speculating that this is the period of waking up, and it most certainly rings true from all of the information that I've been privy to, because I've seen so many people who were completely anti-conspiracy theorists, and they didn't even bother entertaining these things. And it's people like, who I mention quite a lot because he's very prominent in the mainstream, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson now, with his new YouTube channel called Star Talk, he's having many guests on who are speaking about things that he never would speak about before. Before, because he's a cosmologist, it would all be about the facts of science, and through science we know this, and through science we know that. But now, even he's speculating, do we really know that much at all? And in one of these stage venues he holds with other prominent scientists, he asked the questions, how many of you, these top scientists, have confidence in your own theories? And they all put their hands up saying, well, I don't know, it's just a hypothesis, we're just guessing, it's a shot in the dark, we don't know, we really don't know. And so there is nothing that they can cling to like, they once did. Science now is becoming, much of a hypothesis as anything else. The bottom is falling out of science, because there isn't any scientist on the planet that can actually state that there's anything that actually is what we would consider to be corporeal. That's when it is investigated by other scientists of other fields. Of course, there's levels and degrees of this, because we could say that gravity is real, and the heat and energy coming from the sun, that's real. You can't say that that's a fiction. But at what level? At certain levels within science, yes, it's irrefutable, it is real, but then you go deeper into the quantum realm, and quantum physics and mechanics will tell us that in actual fact none of it is real as we think it is. There is just a pervasive conglomerate of energy fields fluctuating, and then when we start to look at what consciousness is and what our reality actually is, it all gets very, very vague. And so, I've been through lots of that before, so I don't need to go into it today. But moving forward now, you see, I just held a 3-hour conversation with one long-term viewer and friend. And we've had many conversations before, some of which are even on this channel. And we're talking about lots of things, and most of the subject matter, if not all, is esoteric. It's the realm outside of the norm. You won't hear this stuff being spoken about on mainstream news or television. But more people have a leaning towards it. More people are having a thirst towards it. And so I'm speaking about all the subject matter and topics that I broach in my book. Through this past 14 years of my spiritual awakening, from when I awoken, from the very first day I awoken, falling down the rabbit hole, having been seriously traumatized by my own egoic implosion. All the things I'm speaking about in my book are humanisms, of course, and everybody would be able to relate to some of the stuff, and some people would be able to relate to much of the stuff. But I've been out there, people. I've been proper out there using entheogens, psychedelics, astral travel, deep meditation, world travel, and all different sorts of things in between. Different dimensions of consciousness. So I speak about all these things from a very deep, profound perspective. And because of myself being versed in philosophy, human psychology, religion, spirituality, and politics and world machinations, I've brought all these things together, and I'm shining a light on what actually reality is. And so some of you will be aware that I was currently reading this book called Reality by Peter Kingsley. And Peter Kingsley was speaking about this ancient Greek philosopher called Parmenides, who lived about 600 BC. And the main crux of that book is that Parmenides, all those years ago, was stating that this world is Maya. It's all an illusion. And it's created by a trickster, by a cosmic trickster, by a paradox. And so what I've done, I've put it into layman's terms, because I've read so much of this esoteric stuff, so much of this mystical, mythological stuff, that's been very, very difficult to grasp and to relate to in modern times. But I've wrote about my experiences, how they came about and what I made from them, from the deepest realm of what it is to be a human, and in the most graphic of detail. So I've explained to everybody the supernatural from a layman's perspective, speaking with prose, very basic, elementary use of knowledge. But of course there are, large words, so to speak, esoteric words within the book. There has to be, because you're dealing with this sort of esoteric territory. But if we all keep Google at our fingers, and every time we come upon a word that we're not that familiar with, if we just Google it, or maybe even write it down in a notebook for future reference, because we very quickly forget again until they become second nature to us. So what I was doing when I was started off on my journey, reading an enormous amount of psychology and philosophy, I would always be reading two books at the same time, and one of them was a dictionary. And so I would write down all these words that I was coming upon and their meaning, and I would keep a notepad with all those books, and at the end of each day I would have to go through laboriously reading the words and what they meant. And it got to a point whereby at one stage I had 300 words written down. But then what happened is I'd slowly start to cross them off because I knew them off by heart. And so then I would reduce the main body of the list. But of course the list never stopped growing, because there's always more to add. But ultimately, eventually, the list became smaller and smaller to a manageable degree. And I wouldn't need to spend hours going over and over and over, the recitations to ensure that I knew what I was speaking about. The difficulty is with words, people, and concepts. If we just pass over a word when we don't know the etymology of the word, we don't really know what the word means, then we miss so much. And all we do is, if we don't think missing one word is important, then you do that at your peril. Because one word could be your portal into understanding the whole thing. If you don't understand that word, then you won't understand any of it, and then you continue reading thinking that you understand something when you most certainly don't. So what you're doing is creating your own illusion. You're manifesting your own Maya. And so it's really important that we stop and take the time just to look at what the words mean. And what that does, it vastly increases our repertoire of words. It increases our knowledge, it increases our onboard dictionary, it increases our vocabulary, and it heightens our intelligence. And then we can listen to more intelligent people speaking about these things, and we have a deeper understanding. and knowledge, and then we can use those words ourselves, which more intellectual people will grasp. Now, what I was saying in the conversation I was having with Julian this morning is simply that if we are as smart as we think we are, then we have to make all of this information publicly digestible. We have to speak in a realm which is comprehensible via the average person. Of course, we can't aim towards satiating the fool, because that's impossible. But we can appeal to the general public, and we can speak to them in prose, very basic language where possible. But then, of course, you need to, throw in the odd meaningful esoteric word. But they're only esoteric whilst they are outside of your consciousness. As soon as you open up your consciousness to them, then they no longer become esoteric because they're familiar to you. So, how many of you now are hungry for more? You're just not satiated anymore with all the bullcrap which we have been fed throughout all of our lives. No longer are we satiated by all the trinkets that the connivers have been offering us and getting us to chase after. Of course, it's pretty unavoidable for most of us to chase after some of the trinkets, because most of this stuff, or at least some of it, is something that we need to do. I mean, we need to chase after a car, most of us. We need to chase after the phone. We need to chase after the house and, the job, because these are portals into our eventual salvation. I've reached this point in my life, and, I reached it like 14 years ago, at the very, very beginning of my spiritual development. I let go of everything, because none of that was important to me anymore, because I just needed to concentrate on what on earth was happening to me, and discovering my own psychology and my own spirit and my own senses and my own perspective, and to eradicate anybody else's. I would listen to them, of course, and this is why I studied psychology and philosophy so deeply, because I wanted to know all the opinions that the greatest people have ever had in relation to philosophy and religion and spirituality and all that sort of stuff. I needed to see from as many vantages as I could before I could equate my own reasoning and ask myself, well, which of this rings true for me? I can't believe any of it. Some of it may sound wacky, really interesting and great, but if it's not been my personal experience, I'm sorry, I just don't have an adherence to it. I can only have an adherence to my personal subjective experience. And so what I'm asking is, what's your personal subjective experience? Do you have a catalyst which sent you on this journey? Was it trauma? Was it, some variety of depression or nervous breakdown or something like that? What was it that started you on your journey of self-discovery? I mean, anybody that's been in this for a long time, pre-COVID, obviously there's other reasons, but anyone that's just recently started, the chances are that your particular trauma stemmed out of that period. And so this is where the powers that be have shot themselves in the foot, because they wanted to try to contain human consciousness. They wanted to stifle it, and they're still trying desperately to stifle it and hypnotise us and close down, our ability to think. But the more they're doing that, the less it's working with a good portion of the public. We're becoming too well informed, and our consciousness is sniffing out the bullcrap now, and we're not buying it anything like we did before, and particularly because the trinkets are no longer satiating us. It's not doing it. It's just not doing it. We're looking for more. We need more, and so we're seeking more. How many of you have found more? And how many of you are finding more within my videos? And how many of you are starting off on the journey which is between the pages of my book? There's now 47 copies which have been purchased. And that's quite a decent number, considering that my market is my YouTube channel. That is my only market. And I haven't decided to expand that market because I feel that it's in my interest, in your interest, as my loyal, most of you are my loyal subscribers and supporters, to help you manage and interpret what you're seeing. And this is why I'm available for conversations. I answer emails and stuff like that. And it's why I'm promoting it with you. But there will come a time when I won't have the time for that, and I'll be appealing to the masses in general. And this channel won't be as small and manageable as it is now, because it is growing at quite an exponential rate. And I look on the analytics, and it says that you know, I've got 350 subscribers within the last 28 days. And of course, the 28 days, it keeps shifting. As every day goes by, it shifts forward, shifts forward, shifts forward. And so there's going to come a time when it's going to say that you have 2,000 subscribers within the 28 days. It's going to grow exponentially. And then I'm going to lose contact, the front room level of contact, where I'm going to be answering you personally, because I know some of you. You know, then the only way I'm going to be able to communicate with you really is if I've got, you know, a special relationship with you, which we've built up over the years, starting with emails and then having, you know, Zoom conversations, and then meeting up. Then of course those people are going to take priority, which is a natural sequence of events, isn't it? Okay, so I'm done with this video, and I'll catch you guys later.